Thank you for tuning in to Cop with Comic. I'm Brian Koppen, and we're with comic Roxy Arecco. Roxy Arecco, how the hell are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Oh, good. Thank you so much for coming on. I know I follow you online on Twitter. You are Roxy Arecco, and also on Instagram, where you're
Yep.
making the funny shit is Roxy Arecco as well. You're the only funny Roxy Arecco in this world.
I don't know. There might be some funny Italians over in Europe, but in
Please.
America for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have the Filthy Rich. You play a lead. Are you Veronica in Filthy Rich? You're a big old lead, aren't you?
Yes, I was one of the writers and directors as well, and we tried to make it kind of equal in terms of the parts that people were playing. That's kind of what we set out to do. So
Okay.
we're kind of all leads.
Oh, good. Okay. That's very diplomatic of you. Yeah,
Yeah.
I fired it up and I saw you had the funny joke about that's what your mom said last night, and you said that about peeing in the shower.
Oh, yes.
Did I get that right? Like I just fired it up 5 seconds ago, and that was hilarious. Did I remember that correctly or no?
In Filthy Rich, yeah.
Yeah. And so yeah, how long has that been going on? I mean, it said last updated August 2019. So you guys kind of between seasons because of the pandemic.
I don't think we're gonna have another season. I think that was one project that me and a bunch of people that I met at school at NYU Tisch, we all went for acting. We really did set out to make a project where everyone could showcase their talents. If they wanted to write, they wrote. A couple of us directed, and we all basically just wanted to be able to have something to put on our reels. And it turned out to be really good. So we posted it to YouTube, and we've been trying to like show it to as many people as possible. We really are proud of it.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I mean, I would think that would be the idea every graduate of NYU Tisch should have, which is, get a group of like-minded people and make sure that everybody is doing the thing that they want to be known for, so that everybody has perfect reels. But is it that collaborative of school? I mean, are other graduates doing the same thing, grouping up with like-minded individuals, or do you find that you guys are uncommonly good spirited and collaborative and like-minded?
Well, there was actually it was part of a group called the 239 Arts Collaborative that was created by one of the people in the series, May Roney, and she created an environment where people could come in and share work that they had written. So I give her all the credit for like getting this group of people together, and that's how we decided that we wanted to create things together.
Oh, good for
But
her. But now
yeah,
that you've kind
I
of done it and everybody's gone their separate ways, and so there's not going to be future output from this group.
the group might. It's kind of a group that you can like drop into whenever you want. So whoever's part of that group now might continue doing stuff together. And honestly, I have seen a lot of people come out of NYU who have started their own theater companies and um like written their own movies that they've gotten other students that they went to school with to like come and direct or be the DP and stuff like that. So it really was a
Good.
great environment to like collaborate with people.
Yeah, I mean, I would hope that everybody would do that, but I would think certain people would be like, no way, I'm too fucking talented. I will just, go to each of these institutions and pray I get my opportunity instead of, having to make their own. But also, you guys are
Right.
doing Oddcast Pay, which is Pig Latin. It's explained to me. And it sounds like it's
Yes.
you and Andrew Gillespie, and you guys are, I love that. It's a dramatically comedic podcast about navigating the industry. And so how is it dramatically comedic?
I mean, it's the age old. We laugh, we cry. Um, I think especially in this time right now, like with the pandemic and quarantine and stuff like that, we really did want it to be a comedic podcast, but it's kind of hard not to also talk about the real shit, you know?
Uh,
So we find ourselves just touching everything in terms of the industry, what it's like to be a young person in the industry, someone who like just graduated from college, don't really have their shit together, still have to work like 3 different jobs just to be able to have this career. We wanted to be really candid about that stuff, but also make it fun and funny.
Yeah, but I mean, even from the little bit I've seen of Filthy Rich, I mean, your delivery was like, and I guess, I've always kind of talked about theater kids on here, where some people are so dramatic that it's hilarious. So even your delivery of the line, like, you're kind of being serious, but you're being hilarious at the same time. And so your delivery on the
Thank you.
podcast is not really that. It's more just making sure that you're honest about the current state of the industry.
Right.
And then, yeah, how'd you find, how did Andrew Gillespie be the person that you wanted to kind of share podcast glory with?
Well, Andrew and I met our freshman year at Tisch, and we were in like groups together in our acting studios. And we also worked together on Filthy Rich. He was also a writer, also a director, also one of the actors. And we've gotten really close. He's one of my best friends, and I think that he is literally one of the funniest people on earth. And we really love talking to each other. And I think that's a great recipe for, co-hosts of a podcast, people who genuinely like talking to each other and can like riff with one another.
Yes, yes. And are you guys doing that kind of remotely via Zoom or Skype or something during the pandemic?
Yeah, we've been using a few things. We've done Zoom, we've tried Google Meets. It's hard, but we've been figuring it out.
Yeah, some of the audio can cut out during some of this shit, so I'm always recommending non-Zoom things. So I'm
Yeah.
so glad to be talking to Roxy Arecco on Skype, which is the preferred method for me. But yeah, you also write for the Broadway Beat, and that sounds like it is satirical Broadway news. How the hell
Yeah.
is something? Give me an example of maybe a piece of satirical Broadway news you've written.
Yeah, it's like The Onion for Broadway. It's great.
Yeah. So what would that? I can't
Um
even imagine that. That's what, yeah, if you can think of
I know.
any example, I'd love one.
Ooh, let me think. I wrote my first article. I'm trying to think of the exact wording I used, but the headline was something like um method actor draws the line at Oedipus, because
Because that's funny to fuck your mom, right?
right,
That's
exactly. And a
funny.
method actor, they try to do yeah.
What picture did they use? Because I see here on the recent article, understudy warming up, they have Mike Pence, which is hilarious. Like, what picture did they use for method actor draws a line? Just a random one?
Yeah, I think it was like, yeah, Zach, who is the creator of the site, and he's the head writer. He's hilarious. I think he does the Photoshop for all of the articles, and he's really good at it. It's really funny. But yeah, the one for that article I think was just a random like white dude
I
in
love
in a
how
theater.
I love how they choose him, because
Yeah.
I had Brandon Follick on, and I think he writes a bunch for Reductress, and they
Hmm.
said that sometimes they will use their pictures, meaning the writers or the contributors' pictures for other articles. And it's so
Yeah.
funny. I think Meredith Deed said something like they pick him as the straight white douche. And I think, it might not be farther. There's not anything further from the truth, because he's not a douche at all, of course. I don't even remember. He might not be straight. So I mean, there's just I love these things, and how I guess it's easy to decide what you're going to submit where, because you also submit to the Reductress, and so
Yeah.
if it's Broadway, of course, you would submit to the Broadway Beat, and then
Hmm.
if it's something else, like what kind of stuff have you been thinking of for the Reductress?
Well, for Reductress, it's kind of like, obviously it's not all women who are involved with it, but I think that's a place that I usually submit stuff that is like, that comes to mind, that's kind of like more toward a women dominated audience, or at least non-men.
Yeah.
um yeah, so that's where I go for Reductress.
Yeah, I see on the Reductress here, it says study reports Biden interrupted almost as much as the average woman in meeting.
Right.
That's and then, like, on your reel nearer to the end, I saw that you were doing some sort of straight to the camera. It looked like a Blair Witch Project style
Yes.
confessional moment. Were you crying, and what were you kind of talking about in that spoof or parody?
It's very funny that you bring that up, because that actually was not part of a larger project. That was we had donors for Filthy Rich, and one of the like gifts that we were giving people in return for that was a
Yes.
personalized thank you video.
Oh, that's so
And
cool.
yeah, so we wanted to be really creative with them and have fun. And so Andrew Gillespie, my co-host of Oddcast Pay, he directed that tiny little thank you video, and I I really loved it, so I put it in my reel.
Great job. Great job. Fucking, and you said Andrew, right?
Yeah,
Andrew Gillespie. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, you guys are such a perfect partnership because that is so creative. I would every thank you video should be like that.
I think so. Why
Yeah.
not? Why not
Yeah.
have a blast with it?
Yeah, and as far as guests that you have on here, I think I almost had Brittany Raper on this podcast, but she had certain things that I think our schedules didn't line up. So
Yeah.
who are the types of people you're having on here? Is Natalie Gifford one of the people you're having on, or who do you choose? Who's going to add value and hilarity to Oddcast Bay?
Well, we're definitely gonna have Natalie on at
Yeah,
some
she's
point.
so well spoken.
She is. I love Natalie.
You
Actually,
both. Yeah, I mean, I suppose if
the
you're a theater person, like you at the very least speak perfectly.
right. She's the co-founder with Brittany of Women Stand Up, and
Oh yeah.
that's how I got into stand up because of them. So I owe them both a lot.
So you're like, I will put her in on whatever podcast episode she wants to be on. Yeah. Also, tell me about
Absolutely.
women's stand up. That was something that I was going to ask and I forgot. So it's so nice that you reminded me. Yeah, about women's stand up. Like at what point did they realize that, man, these people are not only well spoken and comfortable on stage, but they're also hilarious. And at what point did you join up?
I they started like maybe no, they started last summer. So like a little over a year ago, with that group. And I think I was I think I was the second group that they had of new comedians doing their like monthly show. So I joined pretty early on, and I've stuck around since.
And so what does that mean? Are you still like doing online Zoom shows during the quarantine or not really?
Not really. The past couple of months during quarantine, we did do one Zoom show, and there was talk of another, but then I think people really wanted to just work on the craft itself. We were doing for a while like little workshops together, which was a lot of fun, and I got a ton out of it. I think yeah, they've been turning to more of like an educational resource right now, in terms of like working on stand up, since stand up is not really a thing right now. I guess Zoom shows kind of count.
Yeah, and getting roused by the cops. I thought the drool comedy show with Claire Alexander and Brittany, I forgot her name, is it Cardwell or something, but I think they might have gotten shut down by the cops. And I saw E-Man
Oh
Morgan,
wow.
his show got roused by the cops, and it's just my lord, if that's usually people get into producing comedy shows, don't anticipate cops will be in their future, and especially at this
No,
moment in time, you don't want to fuck with a cop.
no, because so many of them aren't wearing masks, so I
Yeah. Oh
wouldn't want
my.
to be around
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like even if they're good to white people and you're a white person, it's like, well, also please wear a mask, please.
Right.
But yeah, so I mean, if your Filthy Rich was of course 239. I think I'm recalling that correctly. But
Mhm.
you and Andrew and things like if you are doing your next big series and you are the co-creator, what is it going to be? I'm putting you on the spot. Like what
Oh
things
my
do you
God.
love? Do you really would you love to act and you'd love to be hilarious about?
Yeah. Wow. So actually, Andrew and I also worked at a gym together, one of the NYU gyms.
Yes, I love it. I
We're
hope it's
very
gym
close.
related. Yes.
Yeah, I've had an idea for a couple years about having a series based on working at the gym, because it was a very funny place. And I don't know. Sometimes I just get writer's block. I know all writers deal with that, but I'm trying to force myself to write. But yeah, so I started the series about the gym. I haven't finished it, but hopefully someday.
Yeah, would that be both of you? I mean, would he'd co-write and co-direct and co-star?
He would, I think, I would have to talk to him about co-writing, but I
Yeah.
would definitely have him on as an actor or a director. I think
Yes.
he's so good at both.
I would love to see him in a gym outfit. He's got a perfect look. He's got the perfect look for it. And I remember, I think Brooklyn Nine-Nine did a gym episode, and it was just so funny to see, Terry Jeffords and the other, Jake Peralta and his little sidekick. It was funny to see them in gym clothes. But yeah,
Uh-huh.
so I mean, what can we expect next from Oddcast Pay? Like, who's going to be on and how often do you release? And it looks like you're here on Apple. Are you also on Spotify, etc.?
Yes, we're on Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, um, oh, what's the last one? SoundCloud. That's right.
And you
Yeah.
did you I mean, and I guess I have a podcast host where you're able to blow it out to all those things easily, but I've yet to see SoundCloud kind of listed there. Do you independently upload to SoundCloud?
Well, SoundCloud is our like RSS
Oh, it
feed that,
is. So that's kind of
yeah,
your host.
yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Hmm.
So you upload it to SoundCloud and they blow it out to Spotify and Apple, etc.
Yeah.
Wow, is that
Yeah.
free?
And um,
Or for a
I don't
certain
think it
amount of
was.
content, it might be, yeah.
Yeah.
Like first couple hours could be, but if for people who upload a lot more than that. Yeah, so how often do you release?
So we're on kind of a hiatus right now, but when we were releasing episodes, it was weekly. And yeah, we made a joke about we'll come back whenever we feel like it. So season 2, whenever we're feeling up to recording again.
Yeah, and in the meantime, I had Erica Hernandez on, and she talks about auditioning kind of remotely. Have you been doing any sort of let me film myself and send it to the casting directors, or how is that working during the quarantine?
Yeah, definitely in the beginning of quarantine, I was still doing that because it seemed like maybe some productions were still going to be happening by the summer or by the end of the year. But since Broadway is shut down until at least January, most likely later than that, I've kind of taken a break with that because I just figure why would I entertain them with that if I can't even actually commit to it, you know?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then like, have you linked up with any like where there's a lot of sketch and improv groups coming out of NYU, and did you link up with any of them? And like, did you get in with the Pit and the UCB and the what was the other one, Boogie Manja and all these things? Have you written or performed with any of those?
I haven't. I with women stand up, I did a show at the Pit one time. I definitely I was planning to like start taking classes at UCB. I was planning on like trying to get into these
Yes.
things, and then everything shut down.
Oh yeah. Some
Um,
people were like, dude, it was my first time in the house team. We had one show and then it was done.
yeah, it's so sad. But I'm hopeful for when things pick back up again, and I definitely am looking forward to like finding new groups that I can join.
Yeah, and then in the meantime, are you doing any front-facing video for Roxy Arecco's Instagram?
I I have a few ideas. Again, I got to get myself to do it. And I will.
Yeah, and so so looking at the topics here, like, do you find yourself thinking of hilarious characters when when you're thinking about making gluten-free food or any of the TV shows that you're into or any of the musicals? You have here listed Into the Woods, etc., and West Side Story. I think my sister
Yeah.
was in one or both of those. So I remember Into the Woods being hilarious. Like, what are these things that get your character juices flowing? Like, accents,
Hmm.
or do you put on wigs and shit?
I don't do wigs, although
Okay.
I probably could. I think my mom has a few. But uh I really I find that my niche is definitely making fun of actors.
There you go.
Yeah,
Everybody
that's
can
where
get
I
behind that. Like theater kids and non-theater kids alike can
right.
make fun of theater kids.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely we're a group that you can very easily make fun of. So that's where I get most of my ideas.
And so yeah, like in this current landscape, like how would what can be funny? Like what would be a theater kid's reaction to, the big stuff happening now with, President Trump not wanting to leave office and getting COVID and all these sorts of things? Is there any theater kid angle that would be appropriate, even though Twitter is, banning, deleting everybody's honest opinion of Donald Trump is automatically being blacklisted by Twitter. Like, yeah, what could a theater kid, what would be their reaction? Like somehow making it about the theater kid?
Wow. That's a good question. There's definitely an angle. There has to be. I mean, Trump has some theater kid qualities. He lies a lot. I mean, like he might very well be the ultimate theater kid.
Yes, and the fact that his parents have bankrolled every expensive school known to man,
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
regardless of how
Um,
practical. Yeah, like what's the skill of being like yeah, what is the epitome of theater kid? Like what's the archetype? What's if who's the when you think of the one quintessential theater kid in your graduating class, what did he or she have in spades, and what did he or she not have at all?
uh, I
Putting you on the
think
spot every question of the interview.
it's okay. I I'm honestly, I'm just trying to think if I was the quintessential theater kid, you know, like I don't want to be a hypocrite. Um,
Yes.
yeah, I feel like in high school it was very, I mean, it's difficult to think about college because in college I actually was like surrounded by all theater kids. So,
Yes.
but in high school, the theater kids definitely stood out because they were more I don't know. Theater kids really, from a young age, they know exactly what they want to do with their lives, and because of that, they can be quite ridiculous. They can take things very seriously from a very young age, you know.
Yeah.
But they really do have a passion that I'm figuring out not everyone has from a young age,
Yeah,
and that's a
passion
blessing
for
and a curse.
certain things and taking certain things seriously. Because you would think if you knew early on you wanted to go into, acting, you wouldn't really have to take much seriously, except, whether you got into the fall production of Into the Woods, right?
Right, but then that's like life or death. You're gonna die
Yeah.
if you're not the witch in Into the Woods, you know, which is ridiculous from an outside eye, but it means
Yeah. And
everything to
so,
you
so
on
was
the
was
inside.
that you? And then what, as a theater kid in high school, if you were, what was your interaction with non-theater kids? Like, is it, one is from Mars and one is from Venus? Like you guys don't even understand why the other group is doing what they're doing and caring about what they care about?
My school was actually, there weren't really cliques or anything like that. There were like athletes in theater, there were, you know, science nerds in theater. So it kind of seemed like everyone was mixed in with everyone. But there was a very weird feeling when we were forced to perform for like the rest of the school. Whenever we did a musical, we would like perform a couple of numbers for the school as like a promotional thing.
Because it's an
And that,
assembly for the assembly or
yeah,
whatever. Yeah.
exactly. It was like an assembly where we would perform just a couple of numbers, and everyone in the audience always seemed bored out of their mind. So that's where it became the most clear to me that we were like different.
Wow. And so, yeah, what's the feeling then? I mean, you're like, why the fuck does everybody not care about the stuff I care about?
Right, exactly. But I don't know, we it's a community. Like high school theater is definitely a community, and you can even face a bored audience together. I felt very
Yeah.
comforted by that.
Yeah. So even like band, when you see band people, like it's like you guys are one giant clique. So even if you don't find friends outside of it, like you're gonna find like 1,000 instant friends inside of it, right?
Right.
Wow. And then what was it like then going, I mean, I don't know where you were brought up, but like when you got to New York City and the acting school or whatever in New York City, what was that like to be with your own people?
My experience in college was very different from the typical like theater student because I actually am from Westchester, right outside of New York City,
Okay.
and I commuted all 4 years into the city every single day.
How come? Because
Um,
cheaper or just
it's yeah, it's cheaper.
okay.
Yeah, and it was it kind of was it was difficult for me honestly because I had come from being very, very close with the theater kids at my high school to
Yeah.
still being kind of an outsider, even surrounded completely by theater kids because I was a commuter and so I had less time to hang out with people. If I hung out with anyone, I'd have to leave by like 10 so that I would not miss the last train to get home, you know? So that definitely sucked, but I met a lot of awesome people from NYU, a lot of really talented people. So I'm really happy about that.
And so the big question I think Natalie Gifford brought up is the fact that NYU tends to push its students into traveling abroad. Did you do any acting in London or Italy like she did?
I didn't.
You're
I
like, they didn't even let me live on campus, Brian. They're not going to pay for London and Italy, dude.
right. Yeah. It definitely was mostly a money thing, but also
Yeah.
I've honestly never left the country. That's I think I've been woken up by this whole pandemic, you know, and how I guess travel can be taken away from you very easily. So I should probably feel inspired to travel after this.
Dude, fuck yeah.
But
Like I'm like you. It's like if you like I hear these people, plan for weeks and save for months and then they're jet lagged off their ass. They take pictures the entire time. They have a huge to-do list when they're in Italy or France or whatever. And they
yeah,
they come back and they're just fucking beat. They need a vacation from their vacation and I'm just like, "Yo, I didn't visit New York City. I moved here." Like if I want to
Right.
visit fucking Paris, I'm gonna move. And part of that is like I don't want to fall in love with things that I'll never be able to like if I go to the same coffee shop over and over again. Once I move back to New York, it's like I'm never going to have that coffee again. It's not like I can fire up the Concord and go have that scone that I loved in Paris. It's like, no, just
Right.
fucking live there for 3 to 6 months and there you go.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
Yes, and yeah, but now that travels, yeah, now that certain things are being taken away, it's like, man, oh man, maybe I should have gave more of a shit or prioritized travel.
Right.
Wow. Well, I mean, we're keeping, you were keeping us laughing during the quarantine. You're Roxy Arecco on Instagram and Twitter, I think.
Yep.
Yes, you are, because you're the only funny one. But then, what was the last Reductress article you got, and how often are you publishing to Reductress? Just a couple occasionally?
Yeah, I was just hired a couple months ago, so I've only
Oh,
had
cool.
two headlines go through.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you're contributing headlines to them.
Yeah, mostly headlines.
That is
We'll
so
see in the
cool.
future.
That's fucking hilarious. I love that shit. Yeah, Meredith Dietz does it for The Onion, and I'm just fascinated about, what makes a headline. And what you're like, well, it has to, a headline might just be a single joke, whereas if you're pitching a story idea, there has to be several jokes there. And that's just all like, there's so many funny Reductress headlines that are crossing my Twitter feed because of former comedy guests. And I guess that includes Roxy Arecco. So, Roxy Arecco, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.